The yearly celebration of gaming that is the Game Awards happened last week. This event tends to be full of a whole lot of filler and fluff and really stuff I'm not all that interested in, including, yes, the awards themselves. Like, I really don't care who wins best game or best sound design or best performance, although I do appreciate that for the creators themselves, it's great to get recognition for your work, obviously. But whether or not a game wins an award has never changed my mind about liking or being interested in something. But regardless, the awards are only one aspect of the show. The other aspect, and what I really love, are all of the announcements. There tend to be tons of new game reveals or new footage and information for games that we knew about but haven't released yet, and this year's event did not disappoint. Specifically on the PC gaming front, we got quite a few new interesting looking titles. There was a shared world survival crafting game in a Victorian fantasy setting, a sci-fi co-op third-person shooter where you fend off invading robots, the sequel to one of my all-time favorite Warhammer games, a new melee-focused wrestling battle royale, and a bunch of other pretty interesting looking titles. Now in today's video, what I want to do is go over the 10 PC games from this year's show that I thought looked the best and that I am most interested in playing. Again, not all of these were brand new reveals, but a good chunk of them are, and for most of these titles, they're going to be releasing in 2022, which is pretty exciting stuff. I just really like having new games to look forward to, and now I've got a lot more of those than I did about a week ago. But before we dive into all of this, just sit tight for a brief word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Darkness Rises, a single-player action RPG for mobile. The game features hack-and-slash combat in a dark fantasy world full of dungeons to explore. You'll fight your way through hordes of monsters, clearing multiple dungeon levels until you reach a boss battle at the end, and these are meant to test your skills, growing harder and harder the further you progress. There are various RPG mechanics in the game, such as Soul Link, that lets you seize control of monsters to fight by your side. And again, this is a single-player game, as such there's a narrative. You'll be playing as a legendary hero fighting against the darkness spreading across the world. Those heroes come in the form of multiple classes to choose from, like the warrior, wizard, assassin, or berserker, all of which can be tailored and customized to fit your preferred playstyle. So that is Darkness Rises. If you're interested, check out the link in the description below, and if you use the code Into the Underworld, you'll get 3,000 gems, 10 costume, and 10 gear summon tickets. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the list of the 10 most exciting new PC games from this year's Game Awards. First, kicking things off is Nightingale. This is a shared open world survival crafting game that is set in what they are calling this gas lamp Victorian fantasy setting. Players will venture through these portals across a myriad of beautiful and increasingly dangerous worlds while trying to survive. So the trailer opens up with this cinematic shot of some really creepy looking enemies. Like, I love the design here. It's pretty unsettling, honestly. There's a bit of narrative from this Fae looking creature, and then followed by that is a ton of what looks to be in-engine gameplay footage. So we see players walking around and through various environments. There's a swamp region, some forest areas, desert, and mountains. Apparently what will be happening is we'll be taking these portals here into and out of these various worlds while doing the survival thing of gathering resources, crafting, and building. Speaking of which, there were quite a few time-lapse shots of base construction, these structures being built from the ground up, and the end result are these fairly detailed looking forts or structures, whatever you want to call them. A really interesting looking design that you can get from apparently a player crafted town. There were also a few brief shots of different types of enemies in the game, ranging from these massive giants, this tree monster, to swarms of ghouls, which you will apparently be encountering out in the wild, but also in what looks to be some sort of a base defense system where players have to fight back hordes of enemies which can, it seems, destroy their structures as well. The game features, as listed on the official website, include exploring the realms, traverse foreboding forest, harrowing swamps, and shimmering deserts as we restore the portals leading deeper into the lands of Fae, building and crafting as we construct estates, farms, and communities to live off the land. We'll also be crafting tools tools, gear, and weapons to survive. And lastly, it is a shared world. You can play alone or unite with other players, but not just grouping up in parties. You will actually encounter other people and just run into them as you're playing the game and going into these various biomes. Now, from the FAQ, we got a couple of launch details. Apparently, they are looking to release the game in 2022. Playtesting they'll start off with some playtesting that you can sign up for now on their official website, with launch coming at a later date. This is being developed by a studio called Inflection Games, which is formed and made up of former BioWare members. This is their first title, and it looks really good. Like, I dig the art style and the setting. So I guess it turns out I like gas lamp Victorian fantasy. What a strange genre to call it. But yeah, pretty sharp as well for a survival game. Like, I'm pretty impressed with these visuals. I know survival crafting games can tend to be janky, and you know, this is just a trailer, so we'll see what actual gameplay looks like with the game running in action and these giants destroying your base. Will it be smooth, or is it going to run at like 12 FPS? Also, keep in mind, this is launching into early access as well. I would say you probably already get the sense of whether or not you will enjoy this game based on your experience with prior survival crafting games. This game looks good enough. I like the setting. I'm definitely interested in checking it out, which is why it's at the very top of my list. Second on my list, and I would say tied with Nightingale as a game that made me go, holy hell, like I want to play this thing, is the title Arc Raiders. This is a cooperative free-to-play third-person shooter where you and a squad of raiders unite to resist the onslaught of Arc, a ruthless, mechanized threat descending from space. Basically, this is a third-person shooter where we fight these interstellar robots, and it looks absolutely amazing. The game is being built on Unreal Engine, and I simply cannot get over how good it looks. Like, I keep rewatching this trailer, and I'm just like, wow. The environments, the set pieces, the lighting in a lot of these scenes, especially the nighttime with the light coming from like the robots and stuff. It just looks great, dude. And like this giant mecha spider that they fight about halfway through the trailer. The visual fidelity shown in this trailer it's just incredible. Like, seriously, at this point, I just hope my computer can run it. A few interesting notes from the trailer. Like most of these trailers, they open up with cinematic and then moved into gameplay. So in the gameplay section, we see these groups of players engaging in fights against flying drones, shooting at them with some basic rifles, tossing grenades, firing these tracking missiles, even using this grapple hook. Although most of the time the players did seem grounded, there were a few shots of them flying through the air, assisted by like the grapple or thrusters. We even see these launch pads during that boss fight, which was neat. They also showcased this system of detection. Moving through the open world environment are these scanning robots that will alert when players are nearby and apparently will call in reinforcements. And again, we got a look at a boss encounter versus this giant mecha spider, with players having to target and take out weak points to eliminate the various limbs. And then at the very end, we see the cinematic shot of what appears to be this like absolutely massive robot descending from the heavens and rising up. Pretty cool looking. Some of the features here, according to the official documents, they say that we play as raiders, this group of resistance fighters, with the help of this early warning detection system where we're trying to protect our home from these enemies dropping from orbit. It requires more than simply pointing and shooting a gun, and more than one person trying to be a hero. To quote here, they say, when Ark is around, lone wolves never make it very far. This actually has me a little sad. I usually like to play a lot of these games by myself, but it seems like there's going to be a strong group focus. Whatever, I'll find some friends, I guess. In general, I think this game looks really cool. It will be releasing in 2022 on PC through Epic and Steam, as well as Nvidia's GeForce Now and PlayStation and Xbox consoles. I am just super impressed with what they showed off in this first reveal. Honestly, that trailer I think was really well done and got me sufficiently hyped. This is the kind of game that I could see myself really enjoying. I also like the, I guess what I would call like mid-century sci-fi style that they go with here. I would say, again, my only hang-up is the seemingly co-op focus that the game's gonna have. I like third-person action games so much, though. I'll find some people to play with. It's okay. This title is being developed by Embark, a new studio created by former EA members, specifically a lot of the people who made what many consider to be the good Battlefield games of the past. Also, though, Nexon is involved, which is raising some eyebrows in terms of monetization, considering this is going to be a free-to-play game. This is second and tied with Nightingale, though. Like, of all the games, these two I'm really, really hyped for and can't wait to check out. But also the next game. Next up is Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. This is a new third-person action title from the cult classic franchise, which recently, by the way, did celebrate the 10th anniversary of the original game. I cannot believe it's been 10 years since I played and made videos on this. Time, as it turns out, does indeed fly. Space Marine 2 is the next installment for the famed Captain Titus and mankind's ultimate protectors. The galaxy is once again in peril because, of course, it is. Entire worlds are falling. The Imperium needs you. We will play as Captain Titus, the greatest of the Emperor's warriors, able to unleash deadly abilities with an arsenal of devastating weaponry to obliterate the relentless Tyranid hordes. The trailer for this game was almost entirely cinematic, except for like the last 10 or so seconds, where they did show us some brief glimpses of gameplay, and it looks just like I imagine a modern day sequel to Space Marine should. Great looking visuals, these massive hordes of enemies and space debris and stuff flying all over the place. And then of course that classic Space Marine chunky blue armor. Also, can I just say, I forgot that my guy Titus here had 4 bullets lodged into his skull. Warhammer is the craziest franchise, man. Yeah, I remember the first game being pretty solid for a third person shooter. I'm pretty sure I really enjoyed it from what I recall. I am not super into the Warhammer lore, but I have liked a lot of Warhammer games that I've played. In the 40k universe specifically, Space Marine, as I recall, was one of my favorite, and this sequel is looking really cool. Currently, there is no scheduled release date. I am hoping for 2022, but that's probably unlikely, because if it were happening, I'm guessing they would have said 2022 like a lot of these other games have. Moving on is a title called Rumbleverse. This is a free-to-play 40-person melee Brawler-Royale. It's a fighting game BR hybrid, essentially. On the website, the brief description hints at what the game's flow is going to be. They say we can create these unique champions, get shot out of a cannon, smash crates to find upgrades, and pick a fight battling to be the last. Now, we got a cinematic trailer first, but then after that, they released a gameplay trailer, and this did tell us quite a bit about the game. So for starters, we see the players dropping out from the sky, dropping down onto the map. We see that you're able to climb terrain, be it the sides of buildings or any other structures. We see that you can bounce off of vehicles like launch pads. Combat in the game appears to include knock-ups as well as grappling, as you can literally grab a hold of players and slam them on the ground or toss them across the map. Almost certainly, from what I see here, the game will have some sort of rock, paper, scissors element to it, like fighting games. A combination of guards and attacks to break guards and fakes and all sorts of stuff like that. I can almost guarantee that those will be in this game. You can also apparently pick up objects in the environment to use them as weapons, either hitting people with them or like throwing trash cans we saw at one point. And then it has the classic battle royale element of a closing circle that will push players closer together as the match goes on. There's emotes for the memes after you destroy somebody. And then apparently there are what look to be either objectives or power-up zones. We see this house surrounded by glowing rings that a bunch of players are fighting over. Clearly being there is important. And then finally at the very end, we see 3 players standing on a podium. So maybe it's like a placement system where you can place first, second, and third, and then you get, I don't know, points or something depending on where you place. This looks like a battle royale game for people who like fighting games rather than what most BRs are, which are shooters, which I think is pretty cool, honestly. In fact, I would love to see more fighting / fantasy themed BR games. Rumbleverse looks cool. I like what I saw. Some information from the FAQ in terms of when we can play the game. So on December 10th, which has already happened, there was an invite-only first look event. But coming up on February, on the 8th, they're going to have this early access beta that you can purchase into. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. This thing looks really, really cool. And this is being developed by Iron Galaxy, which is pretty cool to see a new game from them. I do like this. I do like the look of this. I know it's like a little cartoony over the top. It's quite a departure from the first few games that we took a look at, but I think it's pretty darn cool looking, and I just like, I'm not completely over Battle Royale, and I like that this is a melee focused game as well. It seems pretty cool. All right, next up on my list is Forspoken. So this title was actually revealed earlier in the year, although we did just get some more gameplay in a brand new trailer. This is a third-person action-adventure game. We play as Frey Holland, who after being mysteriously transported from New York City finds herself trapped in a fantasy world and land called Athia. As we search for a way home, we'll have to use her newfound magical abilities to traverse sprawling landscapes and battle monstrous creatures. So in the trailer, they had some gameplay cut with cinematics. The game does seem to have this big focus on movement at high speed. In a few areas, we see the main character like dashing and rolling over this rock formation and quickly zipping through a plaza. We see her surfing on this ice board. It's all very fluid looking and very like fast paced. Looks really, really good. And in terms of the combat, it does appear to focus on the casting of spells. We see the character launching ice projectiles, slamming the ground with this fire spear. There was a couple of other elemental abilities as well used against groups of enemies, some like water and rock based ones. We even see her go invisible at one point. And then at the very, very end of the trailer, we got a glimpse of what looks to be a boss fight against this massive ethereal looking creature. Some of the game's key features from the website include a big open world as we explore the sprawling realms of Athia, full of remarkable vistas and otherworldly creatures. There are customizable spells, it says, a wide range of powerful abilities catering to a variety of playstyles. And then finally, magic enhanced parkour. This touches on what I talked about with how fluid it looked. They say we can scale walls, vault across canyons, leap from dizzying heights, and dash through vast landscapes. This one is going to be launching on May 24th, 2022. It looks pretty good. The next title is a bit of a departure from the more serious tone of some of these games. This title is called Tchia. It's a tropical open world adventure. This was revealed a couple of months ago at the PlayStation Showcase. It is on my list though because it's also coming to PC and I think it looks pretty cool. The game's description says you can climb, glide, swim, and sail your boat around a beautiful archipelago in this physics-driven sandbox world. You'll use Tchia's soul jumping ability to take control of any animal or object you find and jam on your fully playable ukulele. Now in the new trailer, we see a few interesting bits. It opens up with her sailing on a raft and then pulling up those sails as she comes to land. We see her climb the side of this rock formation and it has this Zelda-like stamina system. And then she pulls out a lamp from her inventory, tosses it at a crack in the wall and then blows it up with her slingshot, enters into the cave, lighting it up with a flashlight until she finds this chest that she opens. We see her gliding around the environment with this piece of cloth and then grabbing onto and launching off of a treetop, doing some flips before gliding again. There's a shot of some cosmetic customization. We get to see that soul jumping into objects. First, she takes control of a bird and then flies around a bit before changing back and engaging with an enemy. Then she does the same for a lamp and then moves the lamp and launches it into a group of enemies. We see a bit of the ukulele playing with the note wheel and everything, and then also a bunch of other neat looking open world activities. I think it looks really cool. This is really interesting, really neat looking game. It's coming to PlayStation as well as PC via the Epic Games Store. No specific announcement or release window yet. We'll have to stay tuned for that. Next up is the first and only 2D game on our list. This is called Have a Nice Death. It is a hand-drawn 2D action roguelite where you play as Death, the founder and CEO of Death Incorporated. His top executives, known as the Sorrows, have been running rampant on Earth, ignoring company protocols. Can you believe it? So now, in order to regain control of the company, we have to traverse through the various departments of Death Incorporated and remind the unruly subordinates who's boss. Basically, we fight them. I really like the game's art style. I think it is super slick, really, really cool, and just full of character, the like animations and the character itself. I'm curious what sort of roguelike elements the game will have, likely a variety in progression towards the various boss encounters. Over on the Steam site, we got some information. They say we'll be exploring this procedurally generated departments within Death Inc., a fast-paced hack and slash combat with over 30 unique weapons and spells you'll find and be able to upgrade. You'll use what you've learned and earn to overcome the numerous minions and bosses in each department. After every run, when you die, you will unlock various items and upgrades that will help you progress further in the next run. Have a Nice Death will be entering Steam's early access in March 2022. Plans to be in early access for roughly a year, they say, as they head into the 1.0 version. I know 2D games aren't for everyone, but I just thought this looked really, really nice. Next up was the reveal of Dune Spice Wars, a real-time strategy with 4x graphics elements set in the Dune universe from the developers of the critically acclaimed Northgard. The trailer itself was entirely cinematic. We saw no gameplay. However, over on the Steam page, there were some screenshots that did give us a closer look at what the game will actually look like. For starters, we see that there's this top-down camera angle. We get a bunch of shots of various environments. It's the world of Dune. We see some structures and groups of units that apparently are moving in some sort of formation. Various types of buildings, what look to be like control centers and resource harvest locations. We do see nighttime in one of these shots, which indicate either a day-night cycle or there will be maps with set at different times of day. There's a strategic map with some points of interest as well as zones of control. We've got this screen here that looks to be some sort of either bartering or trading system. We see what might be environmental hazards with this dust storm, and then there's this buff or tech upgrade choice screen, and then finally a screen that shows some of the various factions that are going to be in the game. I mean, I guess it looks interesting. All we have is some screenshots and a cinematic trailer. We still haven't seen any gameplay, but again, those screenshots did give us a look at what are clearly some of the game's systems. Dune Spice Wars is coming into Steam Early Access at some point in 2022. Moving on is a title I can't believe is on a list of mine, but it is Sonic Frontiers, a Sonic game in 2021 on a list of games I'm looking forward to. I don't know. They say here in the blurb that you will experience like never before. We'll battle powerful enemies as we speed through the Starfall Islands, landscapes brimming with dense forest, overflowing waterfalls, sizzling deserts, and more. Beyond that, very little details about the game. The trailer, after a short cinematic, did show what does look to be in-game footage, like in-engine footage. We got a couple of panoramic shots of these large environmental set pieces that are clearly designed for Sonic's high-speed traversal. We see a shot with Sonic himself in it, which is pretty cool. He's overlooking a valley with some of what are obviously landmarks that you'll have to go to and do something with. And then it switches back to a cinematic and they reveal what appears to be a big boss battle, which I am curious if it's going to have like Shadow of the Colossus style boss fights where you have to like climb your way up the boss and to hit all these special pressure points or something. This one is arriving holiday 2022. Again, no real gameplay, but definitely there were some in-engine shots in there, which is pretty neat. I'm interested in seeing more. And then moving on, the 10th game on our list is Evil West. This is a dark fantasy, Weird West third-person action game. We play as one of the last agents in a top-secret vampire hunting institute. It is the final line between humanity and a deep-rooted terror. We are tasked with eradicating a vampire threat to save the United States. That's so funny, dude. They say the game features visceral, explosive combat. We'll be using firearms and a lightning-fueled gauntlet and gadgets to kill bloodthirsty monsters. We can play solo or co-op with a friend, and we'll explore and fight in a narrative-driven campaign while upgrading our weapons and hunting tools, unlocking perks, and crafting our own playstyle. Evil West will be releasing in 2022 on the Xbox and PC. Everything about this game is like a little over the top and cheesy looking, but I kind of like it. Although I will say, I do get the sense that this game might be somewhat smaller in its scope and scale. Obviously, it's hard to know that for sure from just a minute-long gameplay trailer, but I kind of get that vibe. Like most of the combat areas they show looked very, very tiny. It also seems like it's going to be a fairly linear action game that will have us like moving through a lot of corridors and little fight areas. I don't know. I can't put my finger on what it is. Something about the trailers, but either way, as usual with any game, I hope it turns out great. So that is the main list, but besides that, there were a couple of other interesting things from the Game Awards that I want to touch on briefly here. For starters, we got a release date for Lost Ark. It's coming out on February 11th, 2022. I am super pumped. Easily one of the games I'm anticipating most next year. I cannot wait to dive into this thing. The taste that I got from the beta was a couple weeks ago or something was really, really good. I had a lot of fun. It's a top-down MMO. That's pretty cool. You don't see a lot of these, and it looks and plays good, so I can't wait. We got the reveal of Homeworld 3. We got some information about this game Steel Rising, which seems pretty cool. Vermintide 2 got a new class, this warrior priest thing. There was a trailer for Destiny 2's Witch Queen, and then we also got the reveal of Alan Wake 2. All of that stuff's pretty neat. There was the reveal of Star Wars Eclipse, which looks really dope. Well, there you go. Those are the 10 most exciting, best looking new PC game reveals and just information. We got four games from the Game Awards. Some really, really really cool stuff here. Like, I am definitely the most interested in those first 4 though. Nightingale, Arc Raiders, Space Marine 2, and Rumbleverse. Those are the like, I can't wait. I must play those games. Everything else is pretty cool too, but those are the ones that I'm most excited for. And you should definitely expect some future coverage from me on each of those games. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully you found some favorites of your own in this list as well. I hope you enjoyed my recap. You know, it's always nice to have games to look forward to going into a new year as well. And I also, it's kind of funny, like a few of these games, especially those first couple, I'm feeling like, you know, it's one of those like next gen feeling moments. You know what I mean? Some of these feel like a little bit of a step forward, but maybe I'm just getting suckered into the hype of like exciting looking trailers. That's probably what it is, but I'm okay with it. I like this cycle. Okay, I've been covering games for 10 years on YouTube. I like getting excited for new games. It hasn't stopped yet, so I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. Sometimes they're disappointing. That's fine. There's so many games to play. I'll still get hyped for games. If some of them end up sucking, whatever. We'll move on to the next one. There's an infinite list of great games that I still haven't even played yet. Anyways, rant over. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.